Nice. Hey, everybody. Today, we're going to bring straight fire. And the reason is because Craig just put in a trochee in his mouth. Is that how you say it, Craig?
Not a Mycelex trochee.
A what?
Not a nice statin trochee, just to clear the record.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't have a yeast infection?
Not in my mouth. No, it's a 1 milligram of nicotine. Yeah.
Nice.
No shame on Tucker Carlson and all those Zen guys, but 1 milligram does it for me.
Do you buy Zen too?
No, I don't. I can't handle that level of nicotine.
So give me, so nicotine is a very powerful nootropic, has a very, kind of has bad connotation just because it's usually associated with cigarettes and stuff like that. So tell me, what is the logic on it? Why have you drawn an affinity towards these recently?
So I have a friend who's like a little bit of a biohacker like you, and like 5-6 years ago, she was like whipping out Nicorette, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, this makes no sense." And it kind of piqued my interest in, I've listened to Peter Attia, those types, and for me, what I notice is I don't get a sugar craving, and I also don't get like a lull. So like after a meal, it's just 1 milligram. So like as context, I think a cigarette's like 10 or 12.
It's a microdose. That's for sure.
Microdose. Yeah. It's a microdose of nicotine. I don't know.
Well, it's a very powerful mental stimulant.
Let's see if it works. Let's see if I have any.
Yeah, let's see if you're not just droopy dog today for a change.
Yeah. Let's see how it goes.
I'm just kidding, buddy. All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about, that is not the topic of this pod, but today we're going to be talking about the psychology of investments in your practice. Maybe not the psychology, but Craig, you and I chase yield constantly. We look at real estate, we look at alternate investment deals, we look at stock market. It's always about, as Randy says, getting your soldiers and then sending them out to make more soldiers, right? Your dollars are soldiers.
Dollars got to go to work for you every day. Your dollars got to work for
money. Either and I told my kids, we have discussions on the way to school. I said, look, they can either work for my enjoyment, meaning I can buy stuff that makes me happy, right? Like experiences or things that make me happy, or they can work to make more friends, right? Make more of them. And that's really the two places after your needs are met or after your needs are paid for. That's the two places. So dentists, good practicing bulletproof dentists have discretionary dollars typically, right? They've met their needs, they've funded their retirement, and now they're sitting on discretionary dollars. And so this theme comes up time and time again in our masterminds, right? Where it's basically, where should I put funds? And you, Craig, always contend, and we talk about this all the time. You contend that, well, I'll let you take over from here, actually.
Yes, I think you could look at like the government. You can either expand your business and do what the government wants you to do, grow jobs and and all that stuff, and grow your industry, or you can just grow your profit and pay more taxes. So the government is basically. The government has a tax system for those who are not adding incremental value to the economy.
Well, unpack that a little bit more. What do you mean?
So if you just want to be hyper profitable and you just want to make an inordinate amount of income, you are going to be subject to all the full spectrum of the tax code. You will pay every dollar of the 35, 38, 40, whatever it is. You'll pay the top tax bracket, and the government will then take your money. And as we see with, what we're learning about our government jobs, and they will hire you to go remotely work and, study something that probably doesn't make a lot of value. So I'm in a position now, and I think when we're doing podcasts, Peter, you and I are talking to our prior selves. And so I'm talking to myself right now. I'm in a position where the practice is stable, thank God, and we're making money. And my tax bill is growing. And I bet you some of you guys that are listening right now are in the same boat. Like, you're talking to your CPA. What? I have to make that as a quarterly payment? A quarterly payment? That? Holy smokes. That's crazy. So what are you going to do? There's no loophole. There's no like.
Let me tell you what most dentists do. Put a pin in that just for a second. And you're going to laugh at this. They hear this, the end of the year, they say, oh, I should go buy a scanner or something that I don't really need in the practice, right? The CEREC, whatever, something that's that's a panic buy.
Well, let's call it an additional one. They're letting
Okay.
the tax tail wag the dog.
There you go.
So yes, if your hygienist, if you have 3 sensors and your hygienist at any given moment are waiting 3, 5, 7 minutes for a sensor, hell yeah, buy that other sensor.
Yeah.
Not only is it tax efficient, it's capitalized and bonus depreciation and all that stuff, but you'll actually use it. Well, let's just say your CPA, you have that end of the year meeting in October, and it should be, by the way, you should be meeting in October. Don't find out December 30th what you owe because it's too late. Because the IRS code says
you should be meeting quarterly. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the very minimum, have a tax projection in the early fall. So what you do is if you have something that can serve you, buy it, absolutely buy it, but don't ever let the tax tail wag the dog and go ahead and buy something you don't need. Because that's just completely.
So, Craig,
idiotic.
you were saying that like the biggest expense of our life is what?
Yeah. So that's a question I ask everyone. What is your single largest expense as a percentage of your income? Everyone gets it wrong. Everyone
What,
says
what do people say?
Food, vacation,
Food.
school. I don't know. This is just take a guess. I always say, take a guess. What's the largest expense in your life?
Mm-hmm.
It's never the answer. And we all know the answer. The answer is taxes.
Well, when you say it, then you're like, oh yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I don't think of that as an expense. No, it is.
And Randy would contend, and that's why he's like, I study the tax code. I'm like, I don't, the aptitude for that. But Craig, so if that's your largest expense, then it probably is incumbent upon you to look for, and people always get sweaty back when I say this, that look for avoiding taxes in your life. They look for decreasing that master payment. And I don't mean evading. I mean using the code to your advantage, because just like you started this, the tax code is set up to reward those who continue to grow.
Right.
Okay. So
you're either going to add value or you're going to add dollars to the U.S.
Interesting.
To the system. You're going to add value. You're going to add dollars. And at a certain point, when you're adding value, you're not reinvesting. You're stable. You're not hiring more people, buying new stuff, or building new buildings. You have superfluous income, and it's just time for the taxman to maximally collect on you. But the IRS wrote this really long tax code with a whole bunch of ideas for you. You may call them loopholes, but they're really they're a book of suggestions of how to add value. So the tax code is really highly favored towards those who own commercial real estate, for example. The government lets you pretend it's worth less money every year, so you can write it down, depreciation. We know it's not worth less. We know that a commercial building typically increases in value over 10 years. But what does the government let you do under the tax code? Pretend like it's worth less.
Yeah, especially in an accelerated scenario with a cost segregation.
Right. And by the way, what's going on with the bonus depreciation?
I don't know yet, actually.
I think it's rumored to be going retroactive
Jamie,
back to January.
Can you Google that while Craig and I talk, please?
Yeah.
Kidding, we don't have a Jamie.
If you want to be a Jamie, though, send me an email. I'd love to have an intern.
If you want to be a free Jamie, let us know.
There's probably some payment in there somewhere.
I tell you. So let's keep going with this. So where we're going is the worst place typically for yield is sitting in your interest-bearing checking account. Agreed?
I mean, the worst place is sitting in your checking account that does not bear interest.
Okay. All right.
And I've had that. So we've
advised many people on that, meaning
I've been in that situation.
Okay.
I've carried large sums of money in a non-interest bearing account for a long time, because what a person like me always has a need for psychological liquidity, not real liquidity. It never really came up, but I'd say in any given decade, I carried extra money for the psychology of the security of it. And I would have been far wealthier had I deployed it, not in a risky, in a secure interest bearing account. So what I realized later on in life is, okay, if I have a psychological need for liquidity, couldn't I just get a line of credit? And a line of credit, banks will give you money when you don't need it, but the minute you need it, you're up the creek. So if you're in a situation where you have cash in your account, this is the time to secure a line of credit. And a line of credit is literally an account that you could...
Yes, dry powder, access to dry powder or liquidity.
But in a moment, in a moment from
I use mine all the time, meaning I use it then I pay it off, then I use it again. And
Right.
Craig, you are so right. My checking account keeps minimal. You'd be ashamed of me if you saw my checking
I'd be
account.
scared is what it is. I have a psychological need for liquidity, and it's psychological, and it's not based in reality. It hasn't served me well. It has not served me well.
Yeah, and so we talk about, and this is the podcast is going to be about, and we're going to give you specific numbers about yield and yield inside of a dental practice, because we go over this all the time. Okay. But Craig, wouldn't you agree that you had a psychological need for comfort? Comfort makes you chill out sometimes.
Yeah, it makes me a better leader. It makes me more calm.
Okay.
So
to me, it makes me lazy.
Yeah.
Right. And I like my back up against the wall a little bit more.
Oh,
so
geez, I hate that.
I've always put myself in a let's go mode. Right. I'm kind of in one right now, of a large international land purchase I'm making.
Yeah, I'm in the same situation.
Yeah.
I'm in the same
just not
situation.
International.
It's not international, but I'm in a risk on environment for myself. Doing a loan for the building for a massive expansion. People come into my office every day and say, this is crazy. This is the nicest office I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's being ripped apart and redone. So, there's a massive multi-million-dollar loan there. And then there's other stuff. And I'm thinking like, okay, so I'm 53. So when I did it the first time, I was 39, 40. And I really thought about this. I'm like, if I don't do it now at 39, I can't recover. So if you're sitting here and you're listening and you're one of our younger listeners in your younger 30s or mid 30s, this is the time.
Wait. You said if I do it now, I can't recover?
I can recover.
I
can recover. So you as a license,
because you have youth on your side too. Is that what you're saying?
Time on your side.
Time. Okay.
So same thing. So if you're 35 or 40 and you swing for the fences and you fail, as a dentist, you have something that no other business owner has. You have the ability to literally look anywhere in the United States, the most ideal place you've always wanted to live, and you can go be a dentist there. There's someone that will hire you and you could make a living. So we have literally the opportunity to say, what would you do if you knew you could never fail? As a dentist, that's what you have. As a restaurateur, I say this all the time. If you're a restaurateur and you get a bunch of investors and you open up a $2 million restaurant and it flops, you're not going to get another set of investors unless they're your family.
Right.
As a dentist, you could completely fail, hand the keys back, go through bankruptcy, and go work as a dentist and say to everybody, I tried practice ownership. I tried swinging for the fences. It didn't work. And now I'm making a couple $100,000 a year. So that lays the groundwork.
When it is expunged in 7 years, you can go try again.
Sure. But I'm setting you up, Peter, for what you're about to go through with the information you prepared. Because what I want to impart upon the dentists that are listening is you literally have the ability to try anything and know you cannot truly fail. You cannot fail. Like Peter and I, as licensed dentists, could, quote, air quotes, fail in our enterprises and go off and become dentists and work in someone's practice. And I know Peter's a good producer. I know I'm a good producer. We can work and make it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that specific knowledge that Naval talks about, right?
Yeah.
It's always the moat that I talk about. Anyone can open a restaurant. Any one of my friends in YPO or other, anyone can open a restaurant, right? So therefore the competition is fierce. You can't typically open a dental practice, or you can't do the physical practice of dentistry without a license. So there is a moat around that. So that is the specific knowledge that makes you, quote unquote, lucky, as Naval says.
And I think, sorry to cut you, Peter, and I think there's a little bit of selection. We, most of us become a dentist because we are risk averse. We think about dentistry as a career to say, I will never lose my job. If the housing market goes down, people still break their teeth. If there's a recession, if there's a war, people still have toothaches. You know, when you're a Ferrari
So
dealer and there's, you know, the global financial crisis, you have to react very carefully because your business can go to zero.
I would
There was
love
a
to hear
time when,
people comment on that. If they chose dentistry as a risk, if their heart of hearts, right? If they really were authentic with themselves and asking that question, did you choose dentistry because it was stable and risk averse?
yeah, I think the more elegant way of
Put
asking
that in the
that question
comments,
is,
please.
was one of the major factors driving your decision to be a dentist the idea that no matter what, you can always make money? That's why we see a lot
I'm
of first.
pausing because I'm even wondering someone who's, got a daredevil profile, in the culture index. I don't have that, but I align more with that. I'm wondering, I'm sitting here in my heart of hearts thinking, maybe you're right. Maybe even
Well,
for
I think
some,
you want to help people. You know, I
yeah,
think we have a
yeah,
noble idea to help people. We
yeah.
envision serving people at a high level. But also, I do think it goes into the mental calculus that you wish to have stability. Maybe risk aversion is a poor way of wording it. It makes people biased against, like, you know, you're not risky. But, you know, stability. Did you choose dentistry for
There you
stability?
go. All right. All right. So let's go through the exercise. So really the thesis here for today's pod is Craig, you kind of ideated and then I expand and we got some data and ran some scenarios. But the thesis was that sometimes a dentist, we are sitting in a 4-op or 5-op or 6-op practice, and it maybe is dilapidated. There's the X-ray sensor, people are waiting, whatever, right? So let's say the practice is profitable, and you're thinking, dentist A is I'm profitable enough. I'm going to go put this money in the S&P. I'm going to go put this money in a Brewster's. I'm going to go put this discretionary money in commercial real estate.
Right.
Meanwhile, you're stepping over dollars on your ways to pennies, and we have some math that kind of articulates this. So we always say in the mastermind, when we get to the financial section, is discretionary dollars should first be used. Obviously we got to get the needs met, right? So do all that, the emergency fund, all the shit you need to do. But after that, the practice should be evaluated for an upside potential, right? Are there unmet needs that you could tap into? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think if your business can expand and you're choosing to partner with your buddy who owns a pet groomer
Or a restaurant?
or a restaurant, and I know plenty of dentists that have actually
Same.
invested in restaurants. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you put into ChatGPT the 5-year survival rate of a restaurant, it's like 5%. You know, the 3-year survival rate's 15%.
Well, there's a reason that a lot of them will take investment or only take investment is because they can't get the loan, right? Like the most expensive money is money you borrow from other people. Typically it's in the 10, 9, 10, 11% range. So if the capital could have been raised at the 6%, it probably would have been done that way. So there's a reason there's quote unquote outside investors, Greg. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that we're speaking to two different segments. There's a
Yeah,
dentist
sorry.
out there that feel no, it's important to kind of dissect it. There's a dentist out there that right now that's making a good amount of money and they're comfortable. But
Mm-hmm.
what they have to do the financial calculations on is the single largest expense in your life, as we've always said, is taxes. It's not your kid's school, it's not your car payment, it's not your mortgage payment, it's your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes will completely destroy the math because if you make $100 and have to pay 35% of that, you only can deploy 65%. So when you're looking at rates of return, yes, the S&P may be 10% annualized over the last 50 years,
But that's a
but
post-tax dollar.
it's post-tax dollar. So you take the $100, you net 65, you put it into the S&P, your math is screwed.
And then
Completely shafted
if you have a gain, you get a cap gain on that
on
potentially
that
if
as
it's
well.
or ordinary income if it's shorter than 12 months.
Right. Right.
Okay, so let's go through. We just went through a basic scenario, right? That the proverbial $1 million practice, right? And so I put in this model that practices there should be about a current net entrepreneurial profit of around 18. And so I think this is
Which
middle
is
of the
very
road.
doable, by the way.
Yeah, I think this is
We
middle
all
of the
know
road.
practices that are 25 and 26 and all that. So 18 is very doable.
Yeah, 18. I wanted to do the median, honestly. Not
Sure.
the average, but I think did median. Okay, so on this, right, the entrepreneurial tax would be, let's just assume 108,000.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is get to this scenario is what does it look like to go from 1 million to 1.3 million through expansion of whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. The chair, like, it's amazing how many, and I want to ask a question to the audience, a rhetorical question. I would bet that there's greater than 60 or 70% of people that are listening to this that have an 8 operatory facility or a 6 operatory facility, but only 4 chairs are equipped, or only X percentage.
The rest of it's plumbed, though. You hear that a lot.
And I put my Zoom light in there, for when I need it, or that's where the Iteros go.
Right.
Because
so much though is predicated on demand. So we're assuming that there is, like I said, unmet demand in this, or you're going to have to go out there and create demand for increased revenue.
And let me give you a quick way to know if there's demand.
Okay.
If you're booked out 3 weeks, there's demand.
You as the doctor.
As the doctor.
What about hygienists? Can you give me something with that?
So if your hygiene team is booked out 3 weeks as well, 2-3 weeks, there's demand.
Really?
I truly believe that, because listen, it may not be a profit center. So let's say you add that room and add a hygienist, and now you're only booked out 2 days in advance. And that new hygienist, instead of seeing 7 or 8 patients a day, she's only seeing 3 or 4, but she's really good. He or she's really good. She is break even at this point. So she's half booked. She may be break even, but depending on the compensation.
Oh, I bet she's more than break even, and still a half.
Well, depends. You might be in New York City, you have to pay them $80 an hour. I have no idea.
Okay.
But all right. You don't have to look at it. I would rather have less marketing budget and another hygienist, because I think they both serve the same thing. They both may cost you a little bit of money, but the hygienist will eventually grow to support him or herself, I believe.
So, Craig, the goal in this model, the goal is we want to go from our $1 million practice to 1.3. Okay. That's the growth we're talking about. Just to evaluate this in terms of cash on cash, efficiency, investment. Okay.
Got it.
So to do that, we're going to spend $600,000.
Right. And everybody's going to say, yeah, Peter, that's great, but interest rates are 6.3% now. They're super high. Super high.
Now the time to expand.
Not the time. I'm going to wait till interest
3
rates come back down to 1.2 again.
Yeah. What opportunity?
Which is going to be the 1st of February.
Opportunity cost there. Anyway. Okay. So with that's an annual loan payment of around $82,000. So roughly, what is that? $7,000, $6,000 a month. Yeah.
60. Yeah. Somewhere in that range.
65. Okay. So this will expand our annual revenue to 1.3, a gain of 300,000. So now we've expanded. If we keep that same 18, now we have an expanded net profit from going from 180 to now 234. And we all know that net profit would probably, on that incremental gain, Craig, would probably be a little bit more. And here's why, right? Because fixed costs and stuff are paid for at that point, right? There is I would say that additional tranche of $300K, I bet you there's probably closer to 32% of net
incremental profit.
Yeah. So now really we've expanded the entire let me start again. We've expanded the entire net profit of the enterprise by this.
Yeah. I mean, let's just take the example of this expansion.
We'll stay with 18.
Yeah, but let's just take the example, like what type of expansion is it? So let's just say it's the simplest expansion of all. You built yourself a 7 or 8 operatory, 6 operatory facility. You have 3 rooms equipped, and the other 3 or 4 are you're waiting.
No one has this.
Oh, yes, they do.
No chance. No chance someone builds an ADOP practice and has 3 equipped. No chance.
So I don't know. Then they have 4, but it's amazing to me of like, when should I build out the next room?
Oh God, yeah.
Because imagine the efficiency of that. You build out 2 more rooms. You don't need another, 4 team members. You could just add 1 team member per room. It could be a hygienist. You're not going to need extra admin people. You don't need, your rent doesn't go up. Your electric bill might go up like a fraction, but it's not going to be the same electric bill, scaled across the enterprise. So go ahead, Peter. I want to keep going with this.
All right. So scroll up for me. Yeah. Right. So just like you said, it's not just an S&P investment. There is tax advantage scenarios in this. So typically you're going to get that 600,000 for $0 down. Let's assume you even just put a little money down, but the bank is going to look at your pro forma your finances and say, okay, yeah, we'll give you this for the expansion. You need it. You should do it. Okay. So now you've spent $600,000 and you can accelerate the depreciation through a new cost segregation, and you're going to have $180,000. Let's just say it's a 30%. You're going to have, which would probably be a little bit more than that, $180,000 deduction, because you're accelerating the depreciation on this new whatever, this new expense, if we're talking infrastructure. Okay. And and then you have your standard annual. So you'll have a 1-year depreciation of 190,000. Okay. Right. So that will abate. It's not $190,000 credit, just so everyone knows, that abates your AGI, your adjusted gross income. Okay.
So up to this point, you really, this point, if you're not following, I'm going to break it down very simply. You could have chosen to write the IRS a check for X dollars, which you would have had to do, or you could choose to invest in your business. Same net effect.
Yes.
Like the money's going to leave your pocket.
Yes.
It's going to either, yeah.
And I love that analogy you gave.
Next year, you're going to spend more money than you wanted to. It's either going to go one of two places: into your business, an investment, or to the government. There's no other third choice. Let's save more.
But it's not dollar per dollar the same.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. But again, I want to go back to that 6.3% comment about, wow, that's super high interest. So 6.3% is the rate that your bank is giving you. But your interest is deductible. So if you're in a 35% tax bracket, you're only really paying 65% of the 6.3 rate, which is 4%. How do you like 4% as a loan?
The interest is deductible, correct?
Right.
Plus, but the payments are not. You're absolutely right.
Right.
The principal payment is not. You're right. So that's a great.
Right. But your cost of borrowing after taxes is 4%. That's real math, Peter. That's real math. If you borrow 6.3% for your Porsche, it is 6.3%. You're not, I mean, maybe your accountant has a trick up his sleeve. I haven't met one that can write off the Porsche or 100% of it, but you can the loan on your business is tax deductible. If I gave Peter $20,000 just because he's a nice guy, if he does not pay ordinary income on that money, ordinary income tax, he is committing a federal crime. When the bank gives you that money, you can write it off and not pay taxes. It's amazing to think of that way.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay.
All right. So we've established that there is a tax advantage depreciation with that. Okay. So now let's go to that. Now the financial income, net outcome. We have a revenue that's 1.3.
Right.
We have profit of 234,000. Again, probably anemic based on what we just said. So the net cash flow after taxes would be about 150,000. So the 1-year cash on cash returns, right? So cash on cash return is a form of yield. Basically, it evaluates whatever money you put in is X, whatever money you get is Y. Okay. So what is the delta on that? If you put in $1 and got $8 back or $10 back, right? That'd be 1,000% return. Okay. So you have 1-year cash on cash return. So it's everyone would love to have that kind of return. Craig, would you like to have that kind of return in some of these alt investments you do?
I mean, I'd be happy if you moved to zero out and got a 12.4% return.
Cash. All right. So let's keep going.
Never mind 124%.
So that's on year 1, by the way, right?
Right.
So so let's scroll down to year 5. So now year 5 projected revenue. So we have an annual growth rate of just 3%.
Right. So 3% is very, very conservative.
Well, I wanted to do a conservative model.
Right. No, it's great.
So that someone couldn't push back and be like, oh, that's aggressive. I wanted to do it like middle of the road. Now you can see the 5-year cash on cash return is dropped down to 72. And the reason being is because we had that accelerated depreciation. Okay. All right. So now let's go to year 11. Let's just say we've paid off the loan. What does this look like now in perpetuity? So now we've got a practice that's doing 1.7. Our profit is 314. Our net income has grown. And now our return on investment, right? So now we've increased our original investment by 13.45%.
Right. You're leaving one thing out.
What's that?
Let's help the listener understand that you've grown your revenue from $1 million to 1.7. So let's say in this 11-year time frame, you want to onboard a partner, or Acme DSO is banging on your door. You're not just looking at a 13.45% annual return on your original investment. You've just almost doubled the enterprise value of your company.
Yeah.
So that's called isn't that the IRR, the cash on cash plus the capital rate of return? So in other words,
internal rate of return. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just 13.45%. The biggest gain is that, let's say Acme DSO is going to pay you for your $1 million. They're going to pay you 4 times or 4 million.
Your EBITDA. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 times your or 4 times your, let's just call it, maybe just they do 1 times revenue. So it went from 1 million to 1.7. You just made 700 additional grand that is not in Peter's formula at all. It's not contemplated in Peter's formula. So we're basing this on your return on your investment, not the return of the growth of your capital. So this whole thing gets super sexy.
Yeah, we can't account for the increase in enterprise value, which is
massive,
significant. You're
maybe
right.
more than the cash on cash, because it's
yeah.
better, because that's a more efficient way. The more efficient thing that makes most people wealthy is very wealthy people don't actually go broke because they buy assets. Very wealthy people say, I'm going to buy a house in Baker's Bay because I want to live it up. And they buy a $2 million house in Bahamas or a $4 million condo in Aspen because they're rich as hell. And then 15 years go by, and that condo, which they thought was just, a discretionary expense, has now gone up to double or triple in value. So there's a theory out there that billionaires can never spend their money. You just can't, because a lot of what you buy is an asset, and those assets increase. So I'm just adding to your math here, something that you didn't contemplate.
No, yeah, I didn't even think about that. So scroll down a little bit more. So obviously the thesis is, and Craig, I was sitting here thinking, I bet there's been, I think we have pushed so many people.
Oh yeah.
Not pushed, but we've pulled so many people, whether it's masterminders or summit attendees, just we've had the conversations.
Start naming them, I could name so many off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's, and so and I don't know why that has been such our call, is to kind of look, and actually, and we've also, to the contrary, told people, don't do this. And so it's not just this bullish all over the place, expand, right? There is sometimes we throw caution to the wind. But I was thinking, you and I have had just, God, over the past 10 years, just hundreds of conversations about why you should expand, or someone comes, should I do this? What do you think? So
I think the overarching message that you and I try to give people is to invest, to allow your money to grow. And dentists, we feel called to do this because if we look at our profession, we are really not doing great. Many of us, I think there's a majority of us, when we're 65, we cannot retire. And there's so many factors that go into that. But the overarching theme is that dentists don't like to invest. They don't. We like to spend. You get out of dental school, you get your first job, you buy yourself a BMW, you deserve it. Everyone's calling you doctor, 100% loans for everybody, doctor loans for everybody. We like to spend. We just don't love to invest. And I see that time and time again, that we make poor investment decisions. So obviously the best investment you could possibly do with the greatest benefit for you is in your practice. So let's just say
tax efficient, you're in control, enterprise value, all the things we just alluded to. So if you are in a scenario where potentially you could do that, so we always go through kind of the checkbox scenario. Is this one done? Okay, emergency fund, good, right? Your practice need money, good. Maybe S&P, maybe then commercial real estate, maybe then, I don't know. But there is a formulaic way to increase your net worth. And these are the ways, and you have, and dentistry typically is an amazing vehicle when done correctly, right? If you're out there providing amazing care and amazing patient experience and amazing dentistry, and you're doing good by doing good, that's fantastic.
And that's the thing about investing in an asset, whether it's your practice or something else. You wake up one day and the loan is paid off. And the returns are just outstanding. But we're talking about even using leverage. Even using leverage, your returns are just unbelievable. And the best thing about borrowing for an asset is it's forcing you to take money from right pocket to left. You have to do it. We all thought in our early 30s, this is the year I'm going to save more. I'm just going to save some more, but you just don't wind up doing it. Something happens.
You're bringing up a good point. So people don't like to save, and I would argue I was in that camp. Craig, you can stop sharing if you want. I would argue that I was in that camp until I found something that resonated with quote unquote saving. So to me, what resonated was expansion, and that is a form of saving, investing in real estate and saving through those vehicles, right? The down payment with real estate. It was not sexy or fun for me to work my butt off and then take the dollars I worked and send it to someone at Charles Schwab who managed the money. That didn't feel like an equitable reward for me.
Well, it's also you just won't do it. You just won't do it. Something
right. And so what I'm saying is but I'm speaking for me. So find something that lights your hair on fire and gets you motivated to send money to send those soldiers into something that resonates with you. Practice growth or commercial real, whatever it is, right? Learn it, do your diligence, get on fire about something. Is I guess what I would say, that'd be my advice.
Yeah, it's like a personal trainer will be at the gym waiting for you. If you don't show up, they'll call you and say, "What the hell, Peter?
Yeah, where are you?
Where are you?"
Yeah.
The mortgage company will call you on the 7th or 10th. What the hell's going on? You want a penalty? So it's literally there's an obligation and a penalty if you don't comply with it. So I mean that's the most amazing thing. And if you're getting to our age where Peter and I at, you start to see these things that you bought for $100,000 that are worth $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000. And the best money that you can get to make you wealthy is the money that you make that you can't access. And paying down your mortgage every month, whether that's a loan payment on your dental practice or whatever, is money moving from right pocket to left and skipping the tax man.
And remember how much we were talking about inflation resistant assets when inflation was off the charts, right? It was equities and assets kind of thing, right? That will, unfortunately, S&P will go up, but pari passu typically with inflation. So anyway, Craig, let's wrap on this. What's cool about this is I know Randy's having a big, and we didn't even talk about this in our pre-dialogue, but I know Randy's having a big discussion on just these sort of things. Maybe not in the practice of this model, but he's talking about habits of what people do.
Right.
And everyone's a big fan of
Randy. You know what else
Randy's
Randy's doing too, Peter, which is cool, is I'm asking Randy to do 2 levels because a lot of us are bringing our teams and they need financial education just as much, if not more than we do. Because as dentists, we can work an extra day. We can work on Saturdays.
Oh, he's doing that?
Yeah, he's going to be doing a level 1 for our teams so that they can get financial freedom as well. More important for them, actually.
And then he's doing a doctor
level. Yeah, just like kind of 2 different levels.
Yeah.
Basic financial stuff and advanced financial stuff.
So this is at the summit coming up in 2025. I can tell you there are a lot of people who are super interested in what we're talking about from alternate investments. And I can tell you this, Craig, because we have 400 plus people signed up on our real estate newsletter, or not newsletter, but our real estate list when we have deals. 400 plus people that are dentists, that are our listeners, that are interested. So it is super interesting. And so if you're interested at all, come to Summit, and we will be talking about this more and unpacking things. Because if you look at the Bulletproof pathway, right, our mastermind curriculum, this is the thing that we get to in the latter half of it, right? After we've maximized our practice and measured what we've done and we're fulfilled, we look at what do we do now with the wealth aggregation, whether it's real estate, multiple locations, financial plannings. Maybe there's a liquidity event in your future through that increased enterprise value. Maybe there's a partnership sale for potential. So come to Summit, immerse yourself in this ecosystem. And don't go it alone. don't go it alone, and be weary of. I actually had a call this weekend, Craig, about someone called and said, one of our masterminders, and he said, "Hey, you and Craig we're throwing shame on whole life insurance." And he's like, and it made me pause because I have someone that's hot and bothered trying to get me to sign up right now. And I said, okay, of course he is. And ask him, what is his commission on this? So your incentives are not aligned in this, right? We've talked so much about that. I don't want to go into that, but I was like, ask him what he's going to make on this. And he's not a fiduciary. And so just be careful when, of course, Charles Schwab and the narrative is invest in your IRA and give all the money to, your broker, right? Because they make money on your money, so to speak. Yes, you will make a return. But I think my point is that if you stay in control, you've got no one to blame but yourself and no one to reward but yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think there's good, better, best too, Pete.
Sure, a diversified approach. Is that what you're saying?
I think worst case scenario is whole life. Okay, we can just, that's worst case scenario. But what we don't want to do, because it breaks my heart, because I get in the weeds with, all the masterminders, and I know literally I've looked at the P&Ls of like 150 dentists, and it breaks my heart that most of them, I'm like, oh shit, they're not doing well financially. This is not okay. So what's the number one factor? Probably fear. Like I listen to Bulletproof guys, I listen to, Mark Costas, I listen to these guys, and I'm scared. I just don't know what to do. I'll just stick it into my mattress. Yeah. That's better than whole life, I think. But I think, even if you do go to your UBS, Charles Schwab, Creative Planning, whoever the broker is, if you could find out a registered independent advisor, meaning someone who's not incentivized to sell you products, that is the best. And
well, I told this individual, I said, look, you just avoided a landmine and you just paid for your mastermind in one.
In full disclosure, Peter and I both fell
and I told him
the whole
that.
life.
I said,
Peter
talk to me as someone who has the
it.
scars. We both had it, and we both had to evaluate and be like, what is going on?
But I got 3D F'd because I was part of a consulting company, Peter, that was actually adding value to my practice, but they had that affiliated arm that was financial services. Like at least you got it from a buddy, and
no, I did not.
Yeah, but he was Garrett, right? We
no.
Oh, I thought he was the one that sold it to you.
No, I didn't buy it through him, but I was in Northwest. I bought mine through Northwestern.
Direct?
Yes.
But you got wined and dined, right?
Yeah, I got taken to lunch though, dude.
Oh, I got floor seats at the Miami Heat, and I got Nobu. So I think that cost me like $175,000 that dinner.
Yeah, it wasn't free.
It was not free.
Anyway, enough shade. Come to the summit.
Yes, bring your team. Room. Bring that team. That's
check out the new. I know I said this everything, but I'm really proud of the landing page now. It's super robust. So if you landed on it before or you were pre-registered, we have like 75 people that were pre-registered that haven't gone forth. And I think in the beginning stages of launching the website, we were growing this over time. So it was just a baby kind of landing page. Now it's robust. We have all the speakers, all the topics, all the courses, all. So if you haven't visited it in the last 30 days, please go do so, because I think it'll push you from that. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited about it. Honestly, I'm taking my family like 3 days before. We're doing that universal thing, and I'm ready for it to be here.
Yeah. Well, we still have, we still have 114 days, but we will sell out again. And if you've been waiting to do this, you don't know if this is the right year, you're worried about what's happening in the economy, this is the time to grow. The biggest I ever grew my dental practice was in 2008 during the global financial crisis. I grew 70%. And when a recession hits, people still break teeth, things still happen, but you got to get your psychology right. That's the time to expand.
Yeah. And especially like if you're in a slump or you're feeling like, your back's not against the wall, or you just need some motivation, right? Put yourself in an energized incubator of that. And what I mean by that is like immerse yourself in the environment, or going back to the comfort thing. I know we're sitting here masterminding, but we see it time and time again.
Yep.
of the change, or it gets someone kind of like energized about X, right? And then they run, and then they send us this profuse thank you letter kind of thing.
I know.
So we get all these accolades, and it's like so we're excited about you coming because we see the net benefit of when someone does play full out in a scenario like this, right? We see
it makes us kind of addicted to this, to
yes,
the progress.
but it makes us also like, okay, we heard about the summit enough, but god dang, we see it so much.
Yeah, Bulletproof Summit, bulletproofdentalsummit.com.
All right, everybody.
Bulletproofsummit.com. I even messed up the URL. Bulletproofsummit.com. Sorry.
Yeah, let's leave the marketing to this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding. Craig, your energy, I'm going to give you was
6.
No, I'm going to give you a solid 8. Solid 8.
Okay, well,
actually.
this podcast brought to you by nicotine.
I'm glad it was not from Nystatin, actually, Craig. Now we can we can remain friends.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Candidas.
Love y'all. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
I don't know. I feel like